Hey everyone, my name is Mike Ralston. I'm with ABI, and on behalf of ABI and Lean Techniques, we're super excited to have you all here today. You're going to hear from a terrific panel. You're going to get some great information. But first, let me tell you that ABI is, because we have some members, but we have some not yet members on the Zoom today too. ABI is Iowa's Manufacturing and General Business Trade Association. This is our 120th year. If you're not a member, you should be. We'll work hard to make sure you get a return on your investment every year, that's for sure. And if you don't know Lean Techniques, you should. They bring the right practices and the right people to your project. They do terrific work. We're grateful for their support, and I know they'd love to work for you. Here's what's going to happen today. You're going to hear this panel talk about the digital transformation that's taking place in manufacturing. And again, some terrific folks to speak with you today who are all over that very subject. So we'll talk about that. I think Tim's going to talk a little bit maybe about Lean Techniques. And so there's going to be plenty of opportunity for questions. I think you can put questions in the chat. In fact, the good news is I'm going to get out of your way and let you get going here. Again, welcome everyone, and thanks so much for being with us. And now it's my pleasure really to introduce Tim Gifford. Tim is the Chief Innovation Officer in Lean Techniques, and again, a great resource on this topic. So Tim, take it away, and thanks so much.
Well, thank you, Mike. That was a really kind introduction. Appreciate all the work that you do and the rest of the staff over at ABI does for Iowa. As Mike mentioned, I'm Tim Gifford. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer over at Lean Techniques. We're based in Des Moines. We work with a lot of companies to help create turn them into digital first organizations and help deliver innovation and change how technology is viewed as more of a competitive advantage. Before we introduce the panelists, let's start with a couple. I'm going to kind of set the stage. We all know that the advancements in technology are reshaping every facet of the manufacturing industry, for production, supply chain, operations, customer experience, and probably a whole bunch of stuff I didn't even mention. You know, we've talked Industry 4.0 has been heavily embraced to help drive that innovation. We also continue to see how the focus has been expanding outward to look more towards how that's impacting customers within our organizations. Something we talk about significantly with clients is that while every organization today is undergoing some sort of digitization and transformation, what that specific journey looks like is different to every organization. We're also living in a very dynamic and uncertain time where we need to be continually learning and reassessing our next steps in order to succeed. All these things make it really difficult environment to try to navigate. So there is something that I was on a panel yesterday, and the thing that we do really well in Iowa is we come together as a community and help support each other. So we want to help continue that type of effort today and make Iowa a competitive force in industry. So with some of that, our main goal, let's gain a new perspective, let's learn from each other, and see what actions we might be able to consider within our own organizations. A couple housekeeping. We'd love for any attendees to participate. There is a chat feature. Feel free to post your thoughts or submit questions. We'll have somebody managing those and bringing a few of those to the forefront. We are also recording this webinar. We'll share this out as a link afterwards so you can review it and share it with others of all the great things that we talked about today. Without any further ado, let's introduce the panel. With digital transformation requiring the whole organization to be successful, we've worked to bring together a diverse group of people to bring to this conversation. And so I'll introduce our panelists today. To start with Josh LaRue. He is the Director of Operations at Craig Tool. Thank you for being with us, Josh. We've got Greg Laughlin, Development Manager at Vermeer Corporation. Laura Phillips, the Vice President of Engineering at Pella Corporation. And Ryan Skopp, the Chief Information Officer at Wells Enterprises. Thank you all for being here. But we're going to start off with kind of a current state of where we're at in the world today. And I'll kind of have each of you answer this question and maybe introduce yourself a little bit to get going. So can you give us on a short overview of the digital transformation that your organization has been going through? How long has it been a business priority, and what are the primary initiatives that you're looking for? I'll go ahead and start in the order that I introduced you. So let's start with Josh LaRue.
Yeah, so Director of Operations at Craig. So I'm going to talk about the company briefly as a whole. We are in Ankeny. We have operations in Huxley as well. We have wonderful teams across the organization focusing on the customer journey with our products. So that could be along our websites, product design, voice of the customer, how to digitally get the voice of the customer. So a lot of wonderful things happening, but I'm going to focus on the operation side. Really where my responsibilities are. So my team does the manufacturing, the packaging, and the distribution. So we are the physical labor producing the product we sell. So really thinking about what digital transformation means to us, we're trying to eliminate as much waste as possible from our processes. So focusing on engaging the team and then finding their ideas how to make the job better, along with a Kaizen approach around eliminating waste. We can, as we go along the panel today, we'll discuss some of those initiatives, but we're really focusing on driving costs down and a better customer experience. So a higher quality product, getting it out quicker with maintaining lower levels of inventory.
Great. Greg Laughlin, same question. How long have you been working on digital transformation, and what are some of the primary initiatives for you over at Vermeer?
Sure, thanks. We've got quite a few initiatives going on right now. Well, we're talking about birthdays as well. This is a 75th year for Vermeer, so we're very excited for that 75th anniversary this year. Digital transformation, I think, is kind of like a ball rolling downhill. It's gaining more and more traction as time goes on. I think that it came about probably about 5 years ago with increased traction here in the last 3. Digital instructions are real big for us right now on the shop floor. We're working to get all of our manufacturing instructions digitized. Really helps us work on quality. We've been focusing on quality a lot lately, and I believe those instructions were identified as something that could help us increase quality. As far as that, also, we have, with us being 75 years old, we have 75 years worth of business processes and things to help our dealer network. We're really working towards getting all those things into a central location. So there is a large initiative within the company there to bring all those little subsystems into one place. So people within the organization or within the corporation there in Pella and all of our dealer networks can, have a one-stop shop, if you will, to get all their business done. So that's, warranty work, service work, learning things about their, their customer network and things of that nature.
Laura.
Great. Good morning, everybody. I'm Laura Phillips from Pella Corporation, lead our engineering team. For those of you who aren't familiar with Pella, Pella is a large window and door manufacturer. We are headquartered out of Pella, Iowa, but we have 20 manufacturing locations across the U.S. We're definitely in growth mode as an organization, have grown a lot over the last few years, both organically and inorganically. So our digital transformation is a really important part of our strategy currently. We have some significant effort happening on the front end of our business, and we say that we really mean the customer experience and creating a more consistent experience for our customers across all of our sales channels. Also have significant effort and investment happening on the back end, and we call that intelligent operations. This for us has many facets. I think we're going to talk more about the operations side of things today in the panel. But have a lot of work happening both in what we call physical automation, so automating our equipment, as well as digital automation, so connecting, better understanding the data we have coming in, going through, and then coming out of all of our systems in order to help us reduce cost, improve reliability, as well as we're finding a lot of benefits in team member experiences and engagement through this transformation. So really excited to talk to you all about this more as we go throughout the panel.
Thanks, Laura. And certainly not least, Ryan.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Ryan Skopp. I'm the CIO at Wells Enterprises. I have responsibility for all of the IT team, along with cybersecurity and some of our shared services functions as well. For those of you that might not know who Wells is, we make ice cream, Blue Bunny, Halo Top, Bomb Pop, Blue Ribbon Classic, and a whole bunch of other retailer and store brands across the nation. We have facilities in Iowa. We also have a facility in Nevada near Las Vegas, and we have a facility in New York as well as a corporate office in Chicago. I've been with Wells about 9 years, longtime Iowan. I consider myself to have grown up in Iowa, graduate of Dordt University, and also a member of the board of Technology Association of Iowa, which is another great Iowa organization. So Greg, love to hear you talk about 75 years with Vermeer this year. Wells actually just on Tuesday celebrated its 110th birthday. So we had a little celebration for that. So that was kind of cool. And you don't get to be around 110 years without continuously evolving and innovating. And the digital space, I think, is no different than that in terms of where we're headed for the future. Wells is a lot of our corporate strategy is around just the pillars of making ice cream well, selling ice cream well, and shipping ice cream well. Those are the core tenets of what we do. So a lot of our digital strategy rolls up to that, especially on the manufacturing floor. It's the typical things I think I've heard from Greg and Josh and Laura already. Focus on quality, focus on elimination of downtime. We've done things around tablets, digitization of paperwork, and elimination of a lot of the manual processing things that need to happen there. And as we're looking towards the future, we're trying to get ready for AI more and more on the plant floor, putting our data into meaningful places where it can be used by the AI tools that are coming. And then also we've done some creative things around translation technology to make sure that all of our electronic documents and pieces of information are easily readable by people of many different backgrounds. So like Laura said, lots to cover there as we go through the panel today.
Great intro, everybody. I know that we've got these initiatives that we've started, but typically we learn something along the way. There's certain challenges that maybe we didn't expect, and maybe some positive outcomes that we didn't know along the way. Could each of you speak a little bit about both sides of that? What are some of those challenges and some of those expected outcomes that you've ran into? And we can go in the same order as if we were on a physical stage.
Sure. So when I think about the challenges, we've got one we're facing right now, that the speed we want to change versus the speed the team is adopting to that change has been extremely challenging. So when you actually think about, when you step back and you're facilitating change, the really positive outcome that comes from that is, as leaders, we have to create clear, open communication on why that change needs to happen. And through this, we created a simple feedback loop where we have a QR code available or a link available on our tablets where they can provide quick feedback. So that feedback loop, it's very simple, right? That's not a new concept, but having it for that specific change has allowed very quick PDCA processes, that plan, do, check, act, to make it more appealing for that team. So thinking about, if you have a problem with something and it takes that traditional feedback loop and it takes too much time, most people get discouraged. But what we're seeing is with digital innovation and ways to make that faster, people are more willing to offer up their feedback. And that two-way communication happens much faster, and we can get that speed of adoption quicker.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of what Josh is saying, because I believe I'm next, so I'll start talking. The creating a culture where it's okay to fail. Like, obviously you don't want to fail all the time, but this is technology and things change quickly. So if you can recover from your fails or realize that a road you're going down just isn't the right road, and you can pivot from that, and creating an organization and a culture where you can pivot fast and get something going in a different direction if need be, is beneficial.
Yeah, I think I'm going to carry on the theme. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how common of challenges that we're feeling and seeing across the companies. But change is hard, and technology in particular can be scary, right? And sometimes it's hard to understand. It's hard to explain. So one of the things that we've done at Pella is really embrace this mantra of start small, learn fast, which you can do in a digital environment. Prove it, so show the value, then scale, right? And so when we have those internal wins, point solution wins, and we can point to those wins and share the value that we're seeing from those solutions directly with our team, then it's much easier to gain buy-in and really push to scale those solutions then more broadly across the business. Maybe it's just one of the other things I would mention, our digital transformation is really pointed at, cost reduction and reliable delivery improvements, especially when I think about the operations and manufacturing part of our business. But one of the things that we're seeing that's a really awesome benefit is the work is easier when it's digitally enabled for our team members. So it's easier to attract, it's easier to train, it's easier to retain. And really helps with morale and engagement. So we're seeing some really nice, exciting benefits directly for the team from this transformation.
Yeah, Tim, so we'll stick with the theme, right? I think great thoughts from the group. I spoke at an event this last summer, a Tech Association of Iowa event, and I talked about part of our digital transformation was we were going to use vision technology on the plant floor to watch things as they moved across the ice cream line, right? And identify problems on the line, problems with product quality or problems with packaging that we could, identify for an operator to take care of before they got too far along. Well, it was hard. And what we learned was we weren't very good at this, right? We didn't understand the camera technology. We had issues with lighting. Ice cream environment's wet. Guess what? Camera technology doesn't like that. Lots of problems, and we ended up, kind of shelving the project. And the advice I would give to people is, right, kind of to what Laura said, learn from that and go forward. And this year we're doing a very similar project, only we're doing it in a much different scenario where we've got the camera and lighting at a good spot. It's a dry controlled environment, and we're actually going to watch some of our ice cream sticks as they move into the freezer and identify conditions that might cause challenges downstream using AI. So you can take your digital challenges, learn from them, and apply them forward, and it will be an iterative process, but don't give up when you have hard times.
Hey, Tim, I'd like to add something. As the team was talking, the panel was talking, it made me think about, in June, we did a company-wide innovation month, try to re-spur innovation in the company. And we ended that, we actually had interns in the building working through the summer, and they built a Viking ship, a physical ship. And we did a company-wide meeting where we did a Viking funeral to the ideas that didn't work. So very quickly, people would write those ideas down and throw them in the ship to support fail fast. It's okay, right? Let's move on. Not every idea is going to be great. And it was actually a really neat event, and we had little fake fires going, and it just really supported fail fast.
Yeah, very cool. One of the things I'm asked typically is about how long is a digital transformation going to take, and I don't know, right? Ultimately, it's not the constraint isn't how quickly we can give them the new ideas and the new ways of working. It's how quickly they can adopt those. And so this human behavior of being a part of this change initiative, I think, is really important. Laura, you had mentioned a little bit about how IT and engineering and then some of the change effort that goes into that. Could you talk a little bit more about what spurred the need for that alignment and the relationship, which looks like with IT to ensure a unified approach and creating value with that technology?
Yeah, for sure. So we've been our back end or our intelligent operations journey, it's been going on for about 5 years now. We started with point solutions at the time, called it Industry 4.0, and really involved our thinking to make sure we were thinking end to end, total value stream, which now our effort we call intelligent operations for that reason. And there is great work that happened over those 5 years. But one of the challenges we faced was really getting our resources well aligned on priorities so we could work on what mattered most and deliver value quickly on those things that mattered most. And so within the last year, our CIO, Travis, and I partnered to create an agile framework that has dedicated team members across both engineering, which is the business side of leading our intelligent operations effort, and then the IT organization, which is really doing the core systems development work and data architecture work. And the reality is we can't do this transformation without both functions. And we also have to partner clearly with our operations and manufacturing team, who is really receiving these solutions and then long-term has to sustain, maintain, and improve them. And so we, within the last year, created this agile structure with product owners and scrum masters and dedicated cross-functional teams that include team members from my organization and from the IT organization. And since forming that, we see a lot faster scaling of solutions, a lot more alignment, less tension, right, in regards to what our priorities are, because those decisions are being made collectively instead of in functional silos. So that cross-functional approach for us has truly been an unlock to accelerate our transformation at Pella.
Yeah, that's great. So Ryan, I'll ask you this question. Historically, IT has been kind of considered a cost center. But as you move into this digital transformation space, it's turning more into a competitive advantage. Along with your engineering and manufacturing. I'm curious if you could talk about the transformation that's happened with IT and the IT roles at Wells now.
Yeah, good question, Tim. It's really hard in businesses, and I think maybe engineering teams probably have the same problem where they're thought of as a cost center. I don't know that you'll ever really get IT to be thought of as a profit center. But I think the perception you want to try and change in your company is to make them think of IT as an investment center and not cost, right? That you're getting value for it. And I think the important thing we've done at Wells is, as an IT leadership team, we try to be the ones that are bringing ideas forward to the business partners that have value, right? So we're going to be the ones that have more expertise in things like generative AI or robotic process automation or cybersecurity. And if we understand the business well, we have a great partnership like the one Laura just talked about, you get the opportunity to bring those ideas forward and then be thought of as an investment center and not a cost center. So that's one thing I would encourage people to do. Some of the best projects we've done this year on digital transformation, kind of to Laura's story, have been highly collaborative. So if we have great ideas, we partner with the business team. It kind of sounds old school, right? But just good communication and good working together is really the key to making a lot of that happen. One of the challenges I give my team is, like, we can't be IT people that just sit in the corporate office and hang out, right? We need to get out. We need to get out on the plant floor. We need to get out with the engineers and see what's happening and be a part of their teams. So I have one of my team leaders that does a plant floor walk every week, and we try and get some people with the IT group out with him. And I think that's one way you can start to build that collaboration with your operations teams as well.
Yeah, that's great. So Josh, in your role, you get to oversee all the manufacturing operations at Craig Tool. What are some of the ways that Craig Tool is working to drive digital innovation within the manufacturing process?
Yeah, so kind of starting with the end customer in mind, we as we moved to our new Ankeny campus, we jokingly called it the tripod of accuracy, but that name is kind of stuck. So we do all the distribution across all of Craig Tool products. So we are we are primarily a DIY woodworking tool company, right? Or we specialize in the pocket hole jig. So we're in all the big box stores that specialize in kind of DIY, right? So we ship all across the country. We ship all into Canada. We ship internationally. So to focus on doing that well, doing that right, we created a tripod of accuracy. The first thing we did is invested in a new warehouse management system. That new warehouse management system is driving efficiency and accuracy. But then we tied that and coupled it with a conveyor. Our conveyor has pokey-yokes built in to make sure that it's the right product. So it's a level of error proofing that we really haven't seen how we could introduce the human error side. With the last kind of part of that tripod would be we've coupled with another company that allows us to have a photo sharing app that ties to that shipment. So if we do have any discrepancies, we can very intuitively and easily share that data. So we've invested significant amount of money to ensure we're picking efficiently, we're driving the right product on the right pallet to the customer. And it has been very, very successful. We launched that about 2 years ago. We also, so that's the distribution side. And the manufacturing side, we were like many companies, we were driving rate, we were driving accuracy through very paper-based processes. We had whiteboard hour by hour tracking, we have paper control plans. We've actually switched to a process that is allowing our manufacturing processes to tie to a system that replaces our hour by hour boards. It replaces our and-on system, replaces downtime tracking, and it's really driving that real-time call. So like many of you have experienced and-ons before, where you have the light that turns on and it flashes and there's usually a noise and then it gets someone's attention. Now it's able to send a chat message. So somebody who needs to respond knows immediately by chat. Our material handling side gets a message on what component they need. They don't need to go out to that station, figure out what they need, and then come back. So we kind of couple all of that together with an innovation committee we've launched. So there are members from each category, each area that come together. They bring ideas to the table, and then they're discussing what we're going to go fix, and then they're finding the solution or partnering with other people in the company. We're turning that as we go into how do we digitally get ideas, how do we get easily submitted ideas? How do we give a feedback loop? But having the team really deciding what they want to see worked on is progressing us faster than when we think of the things we want to work on.
So Tim, I would just say I've seen Josh's operation there at Craig Tool. It's really fantastic. If anybody ever gets a chance to get a tour and see his warehouse system with the conveyor and picking, it's a pretty cool tour. So I'll throw my plug in there for Craig Tool, Josh.
Thanks, Ryan.
I would say too, you know, one of the things we do at Wells, so every company has their own digital capabilities, right, that they put on the plant floor. One of the big challenges we've got is just workforce and turnover and workforce, right? The manufacturing workforce churn thing is real. And a lot of the people we get in are now multicultural, different language speaking. So we've made a heavy investment in translation technology, especially around a lot of the digital assets we have, and using some tools in AI to migrate them into Spanish. And then we're going to move on to other languages as well. I think, Laura, if I remember correctly, Pella's doing some of this as well. But I think that's really an important thing for the future, for the next coming years, is to try and meet people where they are in terms of how you're communicating with them. And I think it's going to evolve into things beyond documents as well, into more quick hit video content and some of the other types of ways that you can reach people with information on how to do their jobs from a digital perspective.
Yeah, Ryan, that's a great point. Pella has also been investing heavily in a program to support non-English speaking team members, especially in our manufacturing sites. And I'll tell you, those investments have definitely paid off big for us. I mean, we've been able to completely transform the workforce, attract and retain from much larger pools and populations in and around our different manufacturing sites. And so it's been tremendous for us. And it is beyond just translation documents, you know, easier ways to train and support team members and ongoing support but a huge investment digitally, and it's mattered a lot for our ability to attract and retain talent.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit. I heard Greg, you mentioned a little bit about digital instructions. I think maybe that would help with some of that. But I'm really curious, Greg, with your position working with the software development teams, like what are your teams doing to help create value for the customer on the equipment itself? I'm just curious about some of those problems that you might have had or what you solved that you're excited about.
Yep, quite a few things. So my department goes by the Vermeer Intelligent Systems Department. So many of you probably don't know me, but I'm a big gearhead and I love technology. So I'm in a very awesome spot where I get to put technology on machines. And it's fabulous. I love doing it. But one of the things that's kind of always in the back of our mind at Vermeer is the lack of skilled labor. So we're always looking to find ways to make people more efficient, productive, et cetera, et cetera. So one of those systems I was talking about earlier that we're bringing kind of all in one space is a platform for our dealers that uses our telematics information and the data about those machines that they're on to inform, service techs and service managers of machines that need servicing. One of the initiatives there was the service truck can have the right parts on it when it goes out to service the equipment, so that customer then gets everything fixed right the first time, and there's no lag of, oh, I don't have, this box here is slightly different because your model had a different change. I don't have the right one. So that helps us with efficiencies and uptime for our customers. It was also identified that, well, we're wrapping this up now, but software changes don't necessarily have to be applied by a service tech that might have to drive an hour and a half out to go, update a machine. So we're in the homecoming stretch with a system to eliminate the need for that, so that we can send the software updates right to the machines and keep the service techs working on things that require them have the machine more, in-house in the service bay, instead of them spending 2 hours of drive time out to a machine to watch a machine update its software for 30 minutes and then drive 2 hours back to his shop there. There's a lot of downtime there that could be spent somewhere else. And then, there's other things I can't talk about that are very exciting to me that will be equally fun. We're talking more like cross collaboration. We'll be leaning on all of our little centers of excellence in our department to work together for a big solution. I think that's going to be a really fun adventure for us.
Yeah, that's great. Seeing all the new technology coming out on the equipment is always exciting. It's when we work in software, we don't get the opportunity to see real equipment being made very often, and it's probably exciting to see the real thing happening coming off the line over at Vermeer.
Yeah, it's kind of surreal when you have people on your team that haven't been around machines, and you can show them like, well, you made that thing that's the size of a semi-trailer do something different, or you help them take that machine and make it more productive.
Well, we've talked a lot about like the things that we've done for digital transformation on the manufacturing floor with digitization, automation, all the great things you've done, Josh. I just want to kind of open it up and get an idea of like, how has the digital transformation helped change the customer experience? What's it mean for your buyers? What's it mean for your dealers and distributors? If you could speak a little bit about that and how that's changed over the years, and maybe where you think it's going to go in the future.
When I think about just kind of the operations side of things, it's about that first time quality, having what they need when they buy it, so they don't have a bad experience. So we're layering in with our processes different kinds of control plan checks, different ways to make sure that product's there. We are also looking into some vision systems, much like Ryan had talked about, some maybe collaborative robots coming up. So really want that experience to be the right product, not missing anything, so they can experience it well. When we think about the same thing for our dealer partners, thinking of them as a customer, it's all about right product, right time. So if we miss ship or ship a pallet to the wrong location, you know, it's just a bad experience for everybody. So everything we're doing is to just dial in and really fine tune that first time quality.
Yeah, Josh, I would echo just the importance on reliability. Pella sells through many channels, and the needs of each of those channels looks a little bit different. But certainly our digital transformation is really helping us with on time, in full, no quality issues, and how important that is. We have, you know, several different technologies that we're aiming there, technologies around part and unit tracking. So we know exactly what we have, whether it's, you know, materials coming into our facilities, materials moving through our facilities, across facilities, digital tagging to know exactly what we have and where it's at, so that we can more efficiently schedule and more efficiently predict, are we going to be on time to our customers, and then transparently share that information with them. That's been a huge effort for us and is absolutely creating a better experience for our customers on the other end of it.
Yeah, good stuff. I think when you think about Wells and the people that buy ice cream, most people that buy ice cream don't buy it from Wells, right? They buy it from our retail partners, they buy it from our food service partners in restaurants. And a lot of the ways we sell through them is digital anymore. You know, the big retailers of the world all have heavy e-commerce sites, and everything that we need to do from a manufacturing perspective is make sure we line up with that well, right? We give them great data, accurate data about our products, great pictures of our products, video content, all of that. So we've evolved into a company that's capable of doing that. And then it comes back to, I think, Laura, what you said, out of the manufacturing floor, right? On time, quantities in full, making sure we're meeting the retailer's needs and giving them really accurate information about what they're getting so that their processes work well.
I'm kind of excited to see how data and machine learning come together a little bit more for us anyway. You know, we're always talking about, well, we have training for like drill operators to get more skilled labor out there, but I'm hypothesizing that maybe we could have a virtual mentor on our machines, right? We take that data and say, hey, we noticed you've been running the machine this way. If you made this tweak and this week, you could be 20% more productive with the same amount of fuel. Or you know, you're running it too hard, you're going to be ending up in the service bay here pretty soon if you don't change this and this with how you're running things. So I'm pretty excited to see that stuff mature, and as we organize our data, be able to make intuitions like that a reality.
Yeah, Greg, I really like that. I'm curious, I can't, you know, open my browser without seeing an article about AI somewhere popping up at me. I was curious if how you all are leveraging that within the scope of your role at your organization.
Probably not as much.
Oh, go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
Probably not as much as we could be right now. I think we are approaching it conservatively. I do know that we have task force, probably isn't the right word, but a small team. They're kind of shaping our adoption of machine learning and AI as we go forward. But some of the areas we'll be diving into, that's going to be quite prevalent.
Greg, maybe sounds similar to you, but we could be using it more and are absolutely exploring more applications. But certainly from a machine learning perspective, starting to predict downtime, right? So we can get out in front of it. Also looking at ways to predict on time through the entire system and network as we're trying to bring parts together to build units and units together to complete jobs, right? They're going to go out to fill the windows and doors in a house. So absolutely looking at it in many, many aspects, both on the front of our business and on the back.
Greg, I'm glad to hear you say, both of you say that you could be doing more, which doesn't make me feel quite as bad about the fact that I feel like we should be doing more as well. But it's gonna be really interesting, Tim. I think a lot of the AI capabilities for manufacturing still are in that core machine learning type space, which a lot of the AI hype that's out there right now is generative AI, chat, and some of those types of things, which are important, but I think maybe not as important for the plant floor as some of the machine learning capabilities that are going to continue to evolve. I think vision AI is really interesting personally. I think there's tons of opportunity there, especially if you can get one or two use cases working well. I think you'd have a platform to build off of.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about AI is once we figure out what it is, we put a label on it and then it's not considered AI anymore. You know, computer vision used to be AI, but not anymore because we have a label for it. And anomaly detection used to be machine learning or AI, but now we have a label for it. I'm going to turn over, we've got a couple questions from attendees and I'm going to do my best to read these off for you. And we'll kind of get some reactions. First one is, many of you have mentioned initiatives that create non-transactional data, such as visual for ice cream or sensors for conveyors. Do you have any plans to store the variety of data types now being created on the shop floor and combined with transactional information to drive process optimization or operational efficiency?
I can go first if you want, Tim.
Please.
I think that's a super important question. I think as you listen to Greg and Laura and Josh as well, like all of us, hey, there's more we're going to need to do with AI in the future, right? And my opinion is putting your data in a good format, platform, whatever, consolidated data warehouse, however old school IT term you want to use for it, but just getting it ready for those opportunities is work that everybody could do right now. Right. So I think that's a good call out and would be an important first step, even if you don't know what type of artificial intelligence work you're going to be doing.
Ryan, I'll add on to that just really quick. Certainly one of the things that we've learned through this is, you know, your digital development is only as good, it can only be as advanced as your IT OT foundation. And we certainly, it's not the most exciting work, but we've certainly had to invest in that IT OT foundation to make sure that we can build up, right, and continue to advance. And so for us, that's a clear work stream and something that we have invested in and have to continue to invest in order to keep advancing from a development perspective.
Yeah, and I'll talk a little bit about, so on the conveyor system that we have, the data, so we launched our conveyor, and now we're kind of in the next iteration of, is some data through our warehouse management system and our conveyor, but it's not exactly what we want. So we're in that iteration of, okay, what do we need to then drive those process improvements? And this is really around understanding, did we do the job correctly the first time, and be able to back that up in a dispute with one of our customers. But we also have used that data along the conveyor and with our warehouse management system to do a new layout. So we recently relaid out our entire warehouse based on that data, and we drove a 10% increase in efficiency just by relaying out the floor. So if we didn't have those pick times, if we didn't have that conveyor information, you just won't be able to do that, or you do it in a very archaic method.
Yeah, that's awesome. We had a question specifically for Greg. I'm curious, is MathWorks a part of Premier's digital transformation strategy? If so, how is it being leveraged within engineering and manufacturing?
Yes, Jeff, thanks for bringing that up. That's something our group doesn't work with MathWorks very much, but our systems engineers sure do. MathWorks, I think, got folded in to our development about 7 years ago. I don't have too much to do with it, but what most excites me is we're also using Simulink. So we're doing a lot of models for simulation and, you know, trying things out that way. If you talk to me outside of this, automated testing, the big 2 thumbs up for that kind of thing. So when I hear that we're doing Simulink and testing things before we're getting stuff on big semi-truck size machines to find out it fails, you know, that's a step in the right direction that we've been walking down that path for a number of years now.
Yeah, being able to test when it's still electrons versus constructed into atoms helps reduce the cost.
Yes.
Next question was, Genova builds software for manufacturers across the country. The supply chain problems that resulted from COVID moved many of our customers away from just-in-time inventory, and now they feel compelled to have a lot of stock of microchips and other components. What have you seen, and how are you handling supply chain problems? Anyone want to kick us off?
I guess one of the things, maybe a slightly different angle than the question, one of the things we're investing in heavily is our sales and operations planning process. So we call it S&OP. But as part of that, we've been working on digital transformation to improve the forecasts that we can provide to our suppliers so that they can better predict what we need and prepare for what we need, just like we need to make sure internally our capacity is appropriately aligned with demand. We need to provide that same service to our supply chain. And we've been using several new approaches digitally to try to improve that and set our suppliers up for better success so that we don't end up with a whole bunch of batch inventory that we don't need to carry long term.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice, Laura. We've done some of the same at Wells. We've had similar supply chain challenges. If you can think about how many different pieces of raw materials and packaging it takes to make all the different ice cream products that we have, it's a vast number. We went through a huge initiative post-COVID to kind of optimize our portfolio. Reduce the total number of mixes that we made, reduce the total number of formulas that we made, and try and take out a lot of the noise from different one-off suppliers that we might need to make ice cream, and give ourselves a broader base. And I think that's a practice that a lot of manufacturing companies could take back to their own business, right? And look at how do you broaden that base of what you can use so that if you have a supply chain issue in one spot, you can pick up a different supplier in the short term.
Okay. The next question I think is kind of cool. I'm curious for the answer, is around autonomous mobile robots. Who's using them? Is there any advice on how to integrate them with your ERPs, your MRPs, or your warehouse management systems? Any lessons that you've learned? I think this is interesting too, because a lot of AI is around learning. We're learning with data, but this is actually like an activation, something in the physical environment being controlled with digital technologies.
We absolutely have them, but I can't answer the question any further than that. I know bring your child to work day rolls around. My son is very ready to go find them when they're out on the plant floor. So yeah, we absolutely have them, but I'm not sure on our integration.
Yeah, we have automation robots within our injection molding processes, but they've been around a long time, and they're not tied to AI or any learning at this time. We are putting our toe in the water, looking at some collaborative robots that we're pretty excited about, but we're at the very beginning phases of that.
Laura, Ryan?
I would just say that this is a tough space on a manufacturing floor. Everybody looks at this area and says, "Oh, this should be easy. We'll just put these automated robots in, and they're gonna move things around. Everything's gonna work seamlessly." And Greg's smiling because he's not going to tell you what works and what doesn't. I can tell you we've tried a lot of different things in this space at Wells. And best advice I can give is you're going to have some trial and error here, right? Some things are going to work well and some aren't, and you're going to have to be willing to kind of fail forward as you go. As far as integration advice, my advice would be as tight as you can make it, you should, right? So if you have a warehouse management system and you're tracking inventory and your robots are moving it around, absolutely make that as tight a part of your integration strategy as you can.
One question specifically to Josh, and if you're not comfortable answering this, if that's okay. The question was, what was the proof of ship pick system you were leveraging?
Yeah, we found a company called LoadProof. I believe their website's just LoadProof, but it's a very neat app base. So we put a few phones on the floor, but it's very intuitive. We actually are expanding what LoadProof is doing for us into a digital 5S audit as well, because there's capabilities to expand that simply pick sharing system, right? But you can tie it to a specific audit and say, okay, I'm auditing this area. So we're curious, our next steps might be into our quality control plan. So if we're doing a quality audit, now we can layer in pictures to that quality audit and make it very intuitive as well.
So, well, I think we're getting close to wrapping up. I'd like to ask each of you kind of this final question. Ultimately, digital transformation, really any change effort gets a little messy along the way, and it can be difficult to kind of keep things moving, especially when people are pushing back or you're hitting some issues from customers or whatever those challenges could be. Do you have any advice that you would give other leaders as you think about how to influence that change within your organization? We could start with you, Josh, and kind of work around in
The biggest thing I've learned in the last few years is if you're going to implement something, bring as many people into that team as possible. If it's going to be a new collaborative robot on the floor, and that's essentially replacing what the operator does, bring those operators in and have them help. We're not going to implement a collaborative robot and then remove those positions. But when they're helping along the process, they're going to buy in. They're going to see the benefit. Being an employee-owned company, they're going to want us to do things like that if they understand the why up front. So very early, bring them in and communicate.
well, I can't even remember. Is it Laura? You have any advice for other
I
leaders?
can go next, sure. Yeah, so there's two things I would mention. It takes focus and dedicated resources to really move the needle in the digital space. So I'd absolutely recommend that you dedicate cross-functional teams to the transformation, and you have to dedicate all the skills that you need to actually implement the solution and then support the solution long term. I'm personally a big fan of using the Agile Scrum methodology and getting those right pods or cross-functional teams, scaling solutions across the organization. And then on the influence front, I think the mantra of start small, learn fast, prove, right, and then scale has really helped us gain buy-in across the organization.
How about you, Greg? Any advice?
Yep. Josh took most all of what I was going to say, so I guess that's why I was a little bit dumbfounded for a second. But really, empowering, those that work around you and may work for you to own the solution, and really just trusting those people to advise you as well, I think is good, especially in technology space. There's so much going on that to think everything and are on top of everything is a bit of a fallacy. So I generally trust my team to advise me on what they're seeing and where they think we should go, and I just kind of weigh the pros and cons and let them go and own it.
It's great. And Ryan, I'm going to leave you with the last word and the most challenging, because you've had 3 other answers by now.
I know, and they've all been good.
I know.
I saw a late comment come in the chat, Tim, around cybersecurity, right? And how do you make all of this stuff secure? And I think the answer really is in what the 3 people before me said, which is like, you have to have a great team effort, right? It needs to be collaborative, lots of communication, broad set of people. Cybersecurity has to be part of that. All right. So if your cyber team's not involved in how you're designing your plant floor digitization, you're going to have problems later on. They need to be a part of it. And I think from an IT perspective, for people listening that might be in that role, if you're a tech leader, I feel like you need to be vocal. You have great ideas about technology that probably some people in operations or maybe engineering or others aren't going to know about as well. So you need to use your voice and come be an active part of the group and really try and lead with the ideas of technology. And then I'd go back to the best way you get to learn about what's happening on the plant floor is to go out on the plant floor. So unless you're out there and you're active and being a part of what's happening in operations, you're not really going to know how to influence it well. So get out there and go see.
Great. I want to end by thanking all of you for joining us. I appreciate you spending a Friday with us right before lunch. I want to thank all the attendees who joined and ABI, of course. And I have a big helper sitting across from me, Jacqueline, who's been pivotal in putting all of this together. So I want to thank her too. Like I said, I love the collaboration and everything that goes on in the state of Iowa. I feel like we've got a unique community where we help each other be successful. And I hope this helps, like we, continue the conversation on how we can all get better and improve. Mike, do you have any final words before we wrap up?
No, just to say thanks, Tim. I too thought the discussion was great. Really appreciate the panelists and everybody being on. And thank you to everybody at Lean Techniques too, Tim.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you all and have a great weekend.